Arabic mean to Arab native speakers? And Diego did a literature review presentation.
Well, first of all, thank you everyone for coming, for being here today, and special thanks not only for those who have been here today and who are here today, but those who have been here for the last 2 years, those who have been teaching and helping and assisting and inspiring. Of course, for the specifics of the thesis, I have to thank Dr. Hossan, Dr. Heba, who is not around, I see, unfortunately, but then all professors, all students who have been really helping, also with suggestions and background and feedback. And beside the thesis, thanks really for whatever has been going on in the last 2 years. It was great. My thesis, as you can see, the first 3 words, language and thought. That's clearly a reference I'm making to Vygotsky, and if you have to take home anything, is those 2 words, language and thought. And the basic idea I have, and I really believe in it strongly, is that language impacts on the way you think, and language education is not just about talking to people, communicating to them, but it's about the way you think and you process thought, and from then on, you know, everything else comes. So one thing I am sorry to believe, and maybe some people might disagree, but is that language acquisition, mother tongue acquisition, has been kind of overlooked, or is being overlooked, as if, you know, anyone can teach in kindergarten, anyone can teach Arabic if he's an Egyptian and teaching to Egyptians, you know. So this is exactly the point where I feel uneasy, and where my research will try to address some issues. Specifically, I start being also a constructivist. I'm happy we are a large lot of constructivists. I start from the uneasiness I feel about the immersion paradigm, which is the paradigm used in most international schools, meaning, for those who are not into that field, that you teach everything in English, even as early as kindergarten. Now, I don't have a problem with that. Where I would have a problem is when teaching of English impairs the learning also of Arabic. So when you are focusing so much, you are putting energy, time, resources into English, and you are forgetting completely Arabic, maybe taking it for granted. And I started my thesis with an episode of having a discussion with a kindergarten teacher, where she was explaining to me that you don't teach to kindergarten kids to say at-taur, you have to tell them at-tor, because Fosha is too difficult. And I said, how come Fosha is too difficult for kids, but English is not too difficult for kids? So we are using two measures for the 2 languages. So starting from that uneasiness, and then with my theoretical framework, where, again, I already said it, I stand very much into the line of Vygotsky and the sociocultural framework, but also the Freirean one, so critical pedagogy, pedagogy of the oppressed. And the interesting thing with Dr. Torres last year when he came here, was it in this? No, it was somewhere else. He said that Freire actually started from psychology of language. And poverty doesn't start in the pockets, poverty starts in the mind. When you make someone believe that he's poor, that's the day that person becomes poor. So really, language and thinking, again, is the starting point. So for me, that was the theoretical framework. I need to make it clear, because then I'll come back to that in a while. My research question will basically be on 2 points. The first one, what is the perceived value of Arabic? And I'm aware here I'm using a word perceived value. I think it's used also in the world of business, because unfortunately education to some extent has become business. So you buy education, it's a commodity you buy. So what do Arabic speakers feel about their language? Do they take it for granted again? Do they like it? Do they despise it? Do they want to forget it? Dubai in 2008 had to issue a statement that the national language is Arabic, because it seems they are forgetting it. They are just letting it go. What does that mean to the culture, to the identity of a nation? And then the second point would be Arabic vis-à-vis the problem of diglossia and bilingualism. Diglossia being the very simple and basic idea of Arabic, like, standard and colloquial. So you are always swapping between two different things, and you don't know if they are one language or two languages. I have my opinions on that. It's a long story. And so how does Arabic play with this kind of, multiple identity in itself as a language, and how does it play with foreign language, with second language, so bilingualism? So at one point I felt it was exploding, but alhamdulillah, it was keeping together. So the methodology I chose is a literature review. Usually when I say that, people give me a, okay, but malish. Honestly, when you get to study someone else's language, you as a foreigner, you don't have the chance really to express your opinions as strong. People have strong opinions about their language, and I think that's particularly true here in Egypt. But if I felt like someone coming to study my mother tongue, I will feel uneasy about, him or her having opinions, So literature review was the safest and most logical way of proceeding. Also because there are problems with quantitative. I found out that in linguistics there is a lot of quantitative research being done, and honestly I have my perplexities on that. When you make experiments or some quasi-experiments on children just reading a word list. Now, is a word list communication? I mean, it's reading a word list, fine, but the problem of experimenting on language. So quantitative has limits. Qualitative also has limits, because especially in linguistics, it goes like you need a very long time, a kind of longitudinal approach, and so again, that, as for anyone else here, was against my time constraints, so it was really beyond my possibilities, and also my Arabic proficiencies cannot allow me to go that far. And honestly, my third reason would be that as an educator now, and possibly an educational leader tomorrow, what I do need is a conceptual framework that make my opinions not just opinions, but informed opinions, so that I'm not talking because it's me, but I'm talking because from Taha Hussein afterwards there have been plenty of people arguing on the issue, and Taha Hussein is on my team, so I'm happy. I mean, it's really, there is a lot of evidence on the field, but maybe educational leaders and parents make their decisions not based on research, but based on a general feeling of, English will get you a job anywhere, anytime, which actually is not really true. And then, of course, I put there the keywords, meaning, as for any literature review, you start with your keywords and you put them in a search engine, and then you start reading. So those are my starting point. Now the findings are many and also a bit controversial, but I would organize them in mainly 3 streams. But before that, I would ask you to take figure 4, if you have it in your hands. So my main finding is that, figure 4, page 5 there, there is this Vygotskian development of language. So the basic idea of Vygotsky is that thought develops with language, and it starts as a wordless thought. The print is a bit small, but number 1 there is wordless thought, which at one point develops into a verbal thought, whereby language impacts on your thinking. Now, first of all, a kid will encounter verbal language, then move first of all, by hearing it, second of all, by producing speech, so it's an active process now, and third would be when the kid meets written language, and then you have to organize your ideas, your thoughts into a grammatical pattern, something that has a beginning and a conclusion, something that follows a line. And anyone who wrote a thesis knows that that line is hard to keep, because we reason in circles, but the written goes in a line, and you have to force yourself. Now, my basic point is that now thought, when it reaches to that number, tiny number 4 there, is like language, written language, forces me to re-elaborate my thought and forces me to rearrange my ideas, the content I want to deliver. Now, if someone misses that part, if someone cannot read his or her mother tongue, is actually missing something in the evolution of their own thinking. You see, evolution from a developmental point of view. So it is a problem if you are an Arabic speaker, let's say, but you are illiterate in your mother tongue. You can have a PhD in English literature, but you are illiterate in your mother tongue. There is something sort of missing there. And it's not just the language. So that's really my point. Again, you are free to disagree. But that would be the point of most of the literature I found. And I organized 3 points, 3 kind of umbrellas. So the social linguistics, very powerful research and historical overview done by Yassir Sulaiman, who is based in Lebanon. Very strong opinion from Taha Hussein, who was really strong on the necessity of learning Fosha clearly, strongly, even from early age. And what really triggered me was somewhere in the course with Dr. Nagwa, the finding out that when Suleiman says, how come if you are for let's say, for French, then you are a pro-colonial kind of politically minded. If you stand for Armenia, then you are a kind of national, secular, maybe communist, we don't know. If you are for Fosha, then you are maybe Muslim Brother affiliated. If you are for English, you are politically neutral. So how come English is the only politically neutral thing? Is the only one that's safe? Of course, I mean, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So from that point, really a lot of thinking started in my mind. Second, but these people, I mean, the social linguistics, most of them will argue we need to reform Fosha and to promote Fosha, because that builds the national identity of the Arabs, and that is the language. Of a very completely different opinion is the critical psycholinguistics, especially Mustafa Safwan, who argues no way, Fosha and Armenia have gone so far apart that we have reached the point of like Latin and Italian. It's like we are talking of 2 different languages who are related. One originates from the other, well and good, but we need to empower the colloquial, and actually, if we don't do that, that will keep us Arabs not free. So there is this book, Limada al-Arab laysu Ahrara, of which the only English translation is in the office of Dr. Usa, but you can read it in Arabic. Very, very powerful on this idea. Europe became technologically and scientific advanced when Galileo and all those people of those years, 17th century, started writing science in their vernacular language. As long as you stuck to Latin, you would always end up with old stuff. But if you need real change, you need linguistic emancipation, or I don't know, independence maybe could be a word. So very strong stand, and in fact it's so strong that he has to live in France to write these things, because to promote a change of this kind will really be a very, very strongly political issue. I hope Mohammed can work on that next semester in his research. Then the last trend will be applied linguistics and neurolinguistics, who also stand on the line that Fusha and Ameya are practically two different languages, and there is hard evidence on neurolinguistics that when you Arabic speaker read something written in Ameya but written, you are using, your brain is working as if you are reading a foreign language. Same way, if you are talking in Fusha, your brain works as if you are talking a foreign language. So there is very, very interesting research on the neurolinguistics, and a lot more would need to be done in that field, but of course I didn't have, I have only one thesis to write, alhamdulillah. Now, interpretations and conclusions, basically, I came at one point, I remember entering the office of Dr. Usana, and she told me, okay, I know these people of Freire, they pumped you, they convinced you, and they say, yes, go on, but, we have to take it down a bit, we just do what we can, So, and it's true, it's, on one side, I feel what should be done, because of my theoretical framework, which goes with Freire, I would say, yes, Mustafa Safwan, let's just change it all at once and move on with Ameya and make a big cultural revolution, But that's really not going to happen in our lifetime, maybe. So maybe let's just move to what we can do. And what we can do is really a lot, and very interesting stuff can be done, mainly enhancing teaching and learning of standard Arabic in early years. And there is a lot of interesting research on story time, story reading in kindergarten, how important and how crucial it is to train kindergarten teachers to learn to read in Fusha, to teach kids that there is this thing called Fusha and Ameya, and we have to learn both of them. And the teacher needs a thorough linguistic training for this. So if anything, we need to invest in early literacy, just to mention one. Or another one is using family as a community of practice. So the kid goes home, has to read a story. The family is a community of practice, this is amazing, where everyone in the family plays a role. So one is responsible for taking the kid and telling, now let's draw an image, a picture of the character. Another will say, now you tell me just with your words the story. Another one will play a different. So everyone in the family has a role, whereby they help the kid to assimilate the language, to process the information, to work through the reading skills and everything. Very interesting stuff. Another thing which maybe is the most conventional, maybe is to review early literacy teaching, start with phonology, but not with grammar as soon as maybe it used to be done, or it is still done, I don't know. That I will need also to find out more about. And one interesting thing I found at the end is that everything I wrote in my paper could be said in 2 paragraphs, and those who did it were in Vienna, so there is this thing called Vienna Manifesto. It's like amazing, because you find, I have my baby, and then, no, it was there already. And they call it in a very smart way, the cost of monolingualism, which is, you parent thought that sending your kid and learning just English, only English, nothing but English, from kindergarten will get him or her a job. Fine. But actually, because this has gone, because of yours, I'm not saying all international schools are doing that, but some schools are doing that, because of your immersion program that was against Arabic, maybe even biased against Arabic, you never developed your mother tongue, what it happens is that famous number 4 of Vygotskian development of your thinking capacities is missing. And guess what? You are less likely to get a job. So in the end, we got the opposite result. Now this is not Freire, this is just talking business, So not even from the Freudian point of view. So again, very interesting stuff. And they write it in like 20 lines, you know, it takes 8 pages. Limitations, of course, my biggest limitation would, after time would be limited access to literature in Arabic, meaning I did not read many books in Arabic, actually maybe one, but not even that much. So that was a limitation. And a mismatch between my conceptual framework, sorry for the spelling, and the literature. So my expectations were very Freudian, but then the literature here in the Arabic region is not as Freudian. So that's where there is work to do, Mohammed. And so I found out that the North American social linguistic is very Freudian, very for, you know, immigrants, economically less privileged, and so on. European social linguistics, no. And the Arab also is kind of more similar to the European than the North American. And another limitation would be the concept itself of diglossia. This idea of Arabic with Armenian and Fosca is actually a lie. It's wrong, doesn't exist. So that's why I have figure 3 there. You have this nice cube. Arabic is not just 2 versions of it, it's 100, 1,000 versions, according to geography, according to social status and social environment, according to time. So there are so many variations. Even Fosha is not one. There are many ways of talking Fosha. So, but unfortunately, we all still use this word or this idea that Arabic is only 2. For future research, I would suggest, I would see that there is a lot to be seen. How can Arabic be used in the teaching of sciences? So, well, how, or should sciences maybe from grade 6, grade 7 on only be taught in English because English is the language of science? Question mark. Another topic, I said it already, Arabic and the pedagogy of liberation or critical pedagogy. And then something that is highly needed in the literature is longitudinal studies, ethnographies, something that includes the children's voice. And that's kind of missing. There is a lot of, as I said, quantitative, but not as much of ethnography. So for me, that might be something I might, inshallah, work on. Thank you very much.
We'd really like